Do you think that American society could mobilize, and what do you think that timeline could be, and do you think there's a propensity for that?
Yeah, I think we can, but I think I think our muscle moves in support of that are atrophied a little bit right now. I mean, I'm an eternal optimist about the United States. I think we will inevitably do the right thing and rise to the challenge that comes to us. But it will take us some time, and we have not kept up on all the things that have kept us on the competitive edge of our partners out there. So if you just look at, for example, our own production capacity in the United States, I think China has about 2.5 million square feet of shipbuilding space. We have about 100,000 square feet of
Wow.
shipbuilding. That's an example right there. The average age of our ports, our military, shipyards, federal shipyards that service our capital ships, or carriers, or nuclear submarines, is the average age is in the 90 to 100 years old time frame, and the infrastructure matches all that. We have 4 dry docks that can service all of our capital ships in the United States. That's it. And you can't send a carrier to this place or that place. Some civilian then do, because of the classifications and everything deal with it. And we haven't kept up with addressing the infrastructure that goes along with this. And we've outsourced a lot of our production capacity. At the beginning of the Ukrainian war, as I recall, we had one plant in the United States that was actually making 155 artillery rounds, and we were doing it at a relatively low rate of production. We've done good. They've now doubled or tripled that, and they're doing it, and there's more plans to do that, but it's taken us the better part of 2 years to get there, and we don't have the time to do that. So we have atrophied in this. We have the capacity, but the muscles are not toned to do this, and so we have to do that. And I think first and foremost it starts with making sure we have a very clear strategy about how we're going to do things in the world and how we're going to look at things. That has to emanate from the national level, and it has to come down. We have to have hard discussions with the American people about what's at stake. If we don't prevail in a competition against China, what does that mean? I'm not sure most Americans could articulate what that is. But if you're okay with China writing the rules of the road going forward, well, stand by. We're on the path right now. So we have to be really clear with the American people about what's at stake in this, and we have to talk with them about it. And sometimes I think for political purposes or other purposes, we choose not to talk about those kinds of uncomfortable things. As a kid that grew up in the '60s, in all the schools, we knew where the fallout shelter was. We knew who the enemy was that could alter our way of life, the Soviet Union. We had an appreciation for that. Our whole economic, diplomatic, military, informational aspects, all this dying that we were talking about a few minutes ago, Fran, was all geared towards that. We had a United States Information Agency that on a day-to-day basis was competing with the Soviet Union in the information space all the time going back and forth. So we were doing that. We didn't do business with countries that were dealing with the Soviet Union and stuff like that. That's not the world that we're in right now. So we've got to look at those types of things, and that's all got to be tied into a strategy that American citizens can understand and appreciate the stakes of.
Well, it comes down to that concept of going to combat versus going to war. And we, for so long, got second chances.
Yeah.
You go out there, you conduct your raid, you conduct your patrol. If you got hit, you came back to the base, you went to the gym, you went to the dining facility, and you took a nap and you went back at it.
Right.
You don't get second chances in war against nation states.
Yeah. And we're seeing some really good lessons of this. I mean, the scale of big power war. I mean, just look at what's happening in a place like Ukraine. I mean, over 500,000 casualties have been occurred in that, civilians and military. The Russia has lost over 2,000 main battle tanks. Hundreds more lost by the Ukrainians. I mean, so much material has been lost that we are seeing 1950s vintage vehicles from the Soviet, the former Soviet stockpile coming into use in Ukraine. I mean, this is the whole scale of production. We talked a little bit about the whole scale of what big war is here, and we don't have an appreciation for that because that's not what we've been doing, and we haven't conditioned the American people to this. Just, I mean, Russia, for example, has mobilized over 500,000 people to go fight in their part of the Ukrainian fight. That's huge. That's more than we will have in the army, in the active army at the end of this year. So I mean, this idea of scale is really critical here, and we've got to begin to find ways to communicate to the American people about what this means and what's at stake with this, and then make sure we've got all the systems in place so that we can actually produce this. It took us 12 and a half years to build the Ford, the Gerald Ford aircraft carrier. It took China about 8 years to convert their first ship into a carrier, and it took them 5 years to build their second one. It's probably going to take us another 12 years to build our next version of the next Ford class carrier. So we got to figure out ways to speed this up. And it starts with the Department of Defense. It starts with Congress. It starts with the administration. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done here in terms of this. We can do this. I am confident we can do this, but we have not moved with the alacrity and the speed that we need to.